You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. You probably noticed that Grayson McCall has jumped into the transfer portal. That in and of itself around here isn't necessarily newsworthy, but you probably know the name. Grayson McCall, who has been at Coastal Carolina, sort of orchestrated their rise under Jamie Chadwell. Jamie Chadwell left this season to be the head coach at Liberty, replacing Hugh Freeze. McCall hit the portal, decided to go back to Coastal Carolina. Well, now as a graduate, he's back in the portal with 1 year to play. Grayson McCall's career stats are pretty incredible. He's thrown for over 10,000 yards, 88 touchdowns. He's also got 18 rushing touchdowns during his time at Coastal Carolina. I bring all of that up not necessarily to stump for or lobby for LSU to go pursue Grayson McCall, but just as an illustration of what is available in the transfer portal. There are a lot of LSU fans, rightfully so, that are very excited to see Garrett Nussmeier play. And you should be. Nussmeier was a very highly regarded quarterback when he signed with LSU. All the things, right? He's got the pedigree. His roots are in Louisiana, in Southwest Louisiana. His dad was an NFL quarterback who played for the Saints, who is been a coach both in the NFL and at the college level. So he's got the pedigree, he's got the physical ability, he's got the moxie, all the things that you love that made people really excited. I understand why people are excited to see Garrett Nussmeier in 2024 and potentially even 2025. But, there's always a but. Brian Kelly and his staff would be completely negligent if they didn't go pursue a quarterback in the transfer portal. Let me explain, okay? This year, in 2023, FBS rosters grew to 20.5% of transfer players. 20.5% of FBS rosters were made up of transfer players. 1 out of 5 players on a roster was a transfer. The biggest position group impacted by the portal, by far, has been quarterback. 56 FBS teams have a transfer quarterback that account for 75% or more of the team's passing yards. I know that's a lot of numbers. Just understand that everybody has transfer quarterbacks now. As a matter of fact, the top 6 quarterbacks in the country this year in passing yards, all transfers. You know, Jaden Daniels transferred in from Arizona State. Bo Nix went Auburn to Oregon. Michael Penix went Indiana to Washington. You know. The top 10 quarterbacks in passing touchdowns this year, all transfers. It's just the nature of the position now that quarterbacks don't sit and wait, and when they have an opportunity to go somewhere else and play, they do. You don't generally get highly regarded quarterbacks to sit and wait their turn. There are outliers, to be sure, and maybe Garrett Nussmeier might be one of them. But when you have the opportunity, to add some level of veteran experience at the most important position on the field, you absolutely do it. Look at this weekend. Championship weekend's coming up. Look at the quarterbacks that are going to be playing for conference championships. Michael Penix, transfer. Bo Nix, transfer. Quinn Ewers, transfer. Alan Bowman, transfer. Jake Plummer at Louisville, transfer. If Jordan Travis hadn't been injured and would be starting at Florida State, transfer. And that number has changed dramatically. Starting quarterbacks this year in college football, 55% of starting quarterbacks in college football this year, just over half were transfers. In 2019, just 4 years ago, was 23%. The numbers increased by 25% in 4 years. And it's not just that transfers are playing, they're playing and excelling. So when I look at Garrett Nussmeier, in his career, he's attempted 174 passes. And again, this is not an anti-Garrett Nussmeier sentiment. I want to be very clear because I know some of y'all think that, and it's just factually inaccurate. I have been pro Jaden Daniels, and I was right. I haven't sat here and patted myself on the back or waved that banner, but I'm going to do it right now for the sake of this conversation. I was pro Jaden Daniels, and I was right. But being pro Jaden Daniels doesn't mean you're anti-Garrett Nussmeier. The two aren't mutually exclusive. It could be that you have two good options, one's just better. And the guy who had been a 3-year starter who was a dynamic runner behind an awful offensive line a year ago was a better option and got better this year and became a great option, an all-time option. But Garrett Nussmeier in his career has attempted 174 passes, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He just hasn't played a ton. I just told you Grayson McCall has thrown for over 10,000 yards in his college career. Look at the other quarterbacks that are available right now in the portal. Even after Grayson McCall. I mean, even, I'm not saying that you should go sign Ken Seals or A.J. Swan from Vanderbilt, but those are guys with SEC experience who have both thrown for more than double the amount of yards that Nussmeier has. Will Rogers at Mississippi State. He's thrown for 12,000 yards in his career. He's poised to become the SEC's all-time career passing leader if he lands somewhere else in the league after this season. He's in the portal. We mentioned Max Johnson. Not that he would come back, but Max Johnson's thrown for 5,800 yards across his seasons at LSU and Texas A&M. He announced he's committed to North Carolina today. By the way, tampering happens. A day after Max Johnson goes in the portal, he's already committed to North Carolina. Don't tell me that wasn't already lined up. Tyler Van Dyke at Miami. He's thrown 900 career passes and thrown for over 7,400 yards. Will Howard from Kansas State. He's attempted nearly 800 career passes for 5,700 yards. Again, Nussmeier's attempted less than 200 passes in his career. Tyler Shaw from Texas Tech. Started Oregon, Texas Tech. Thrown for over 4,600 yards in his career. I mean, we can go on, y'all. We can go on and on and on. But the bottom line is, if you go into next season with Garrett Nussmeier as your starter and nobody else, you are a turned ankle, you are a Dallas Turner cheap shot away from Ricky Collins being your quarterback as a redshirt freshman against a schedule that includes USC, UCLA, Bama, Oklahoma, Florida, Texas A&M. You've got to have another option. You have to. And I understand the argument that at some point, your young guys, your young recruits have to get experience. Great. I agree with you. Win the job. We saw that at Ole Miss this year. Ole Miss had Jackson Dart, and they had an option to go get Spencer Sanders, and they did. And they were convinced that Jackson Dart was going to leave because they were bringing in Spencer Sanders, a 4-year starter. And what happened? They competed for the job. Jackson Dart won it and was better because of it. So, yes, you bring in a transfer. I'm not saying you bring in someone and hand them the job. But you bring in someone to compete with Garrett Nussmeier for the job in the same way. It's the same premise that I sat here 2 years ago and told you. When there were so many LSU fans that were excited to see the Miles Brennan era, and I don't blame you. Brennan committed to Cam Cameron and Les Miles in 2016. We waited so long to see that kid have his opportunity, and he battled a lot, man. Played as a freshman some in 2017, took one for the team in 2018 and took a redshirt year, sat behind Burrow for 2 seasons. It was going to be his season in 2020. COVID hits. He has the awful abdominal injury, battles through it, comes back. 2022 is going to be his year, and he breaks his leg or breaks his arm. Excuse me, in 2021. Breaks his arm right before fall camp. It sucked. And so then 2022 was finally going to be it. And Brian Kelly said, I haven't seen this kid play enough. I have a chance to get a guy that started for 3 years in the Pac-12, who's dynamic, was a top 50 overall player in the country. Let's bring him in, let him compete. And Jaden Daniels won the job. And it was the right move. And you're faced with that again now. Just like every other program in the country is faced with this option. Again, I'm not saying bring in someone to start them over Nussmeier. I'm saying when you have an opportunity to add a player with experience at the most important position in organized team sports to compete for the job, you do it. And if you don't, it's negligent. And if Brian Kelly and the staff don't go kick the tires on transfer portal quarterbacks, that is negligent. And maybe Nussmeier goes and has an incredible year and throws for 5,000 yards and leads LSU to a national championship. That'd be awesome. We saw Matt Flynn wait his turn. Finally got his chance to start, became a national champion. It happens. But there's always the what if. And you can prepare for the what if. You have an insurance policy. You have an option to push the guy to be better. Why wouldn't you take him? What's the downside? Over half the starting quarterbacks in college football this year were transfers. Maybe Garrett Nussmeier wins the job. Be awesome if he did. But what if there's a better option out there? You have to take it. Maybe it's Grayson McCall. Maybe it's someone who hasn't even hit the portal yet. But if you're LSU, you have got to walk down that road and bring in somebody to compete at quarterback. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.